The sun rose slowly over the small village of Mvezo, South Africa, casting soft golden rays over the rolling hills. In a modest mud hut, a baby cried, a cry that would one day echo across continents. His name was Rolihlahla Mandela, a name that meant troublemaker. But what the world would later know was that this troublemaker would become a peacemaker of unmatched strength. Born into the Thembu royal family, young Mandela's early life was marked not by privilege, but by humility. Though of noble lineage, he lived like any other rural boy, walking barefoot to school, herding cattle, and listening to his elders tell ancient Xhosa stories around the fire. His dreams were small then. He only wanted to learn. But even as a child, Mandela felt a fire in his chest when he saw injustice. He would ask why some people had to bow while others gave orders. His questions were met with silence. Silence born of fear, the kind that had haunted South Africa for generations. When Mandela was just 9 years old, his father died of a lung disease. It shattered his world. His protector, his guide, was gone. But instead of breaking him, the pain planted something in him: resilience. The kind of resilience that whispers, "Stand back up, even when the world pushes you down." He was sent to live with the acting regent of the Thembu people, Chief Jongintaba Dalindyebo. It was here that Mandela was introduced to the broader world of politics and leadership. He watched, listened, and absorbed every lesson, quietly building his sense of justice like a blacksmith forging a sword. At school, Mandela was given the English name Nelson, a name chosen by a teacher. It was a simple gesture, but it would become one of the most recognized names in human history. Still, the boy behind the name remained humble, observant, and driven by an invisible force, the belief that life should be fair for everyone. In his teenage years, Mandela was sent to Fort Hare University, one of the few institutions in Africa that allowed black students. It was here that his spirit of resistance began to truly emerge. When he joined a student protest against unfair university policies, he was expelled. But instead of being defeated, he stood taller. He fled to Johannesburg to escape an arranged marriage and found himself working as a night watchman in the mines. But even under the dim lights of the underground shafts, Mandela dreamed. He saw a South Africa where children, black or white, could walk hand in hand under the same sky without fear. Johannesburg was a world of contradictions, wealth and poverty, opportunity and oppression. Here, Mandela met Walter Sisulu, a man who would become his mentor and brother in struggle. Sisulu introduced him to the African National Congress, ANC, and Mandela stepped into a river of resistance that had flowed for decades. In 1944, he helped found the ANC Youth League. It was the spark that would ignite a wildfire. Mandela began organizing, protesting, and speaking, his voice rising above the noise, steady and clear. The government saw a young man with too much courage, and so began their campaign to silence him. But no prison cell could contain a soul born to liberate. Mandela understood that freedom was not just a legal status, it was a state of dignity, of opportunity, of equality. And even as laws were written to strip him of rights, he began rewriting history through resistance. As apartheid grew crueler, Mandela's resolve only deepened. He moved from peaceful protest to more assertive defiance, believing that when dialogue is met with violence, resistance must evolve, not out of hate, but out of love for freedom. He was labeled a terrorist, hunted like a criminal, and in 1962, Mandela was arrested. The charges: traveling abroad without a passport and inciting workers to strike. But what they truly arrested was a man whose ideas they couldn't silence. At the infamous Rivonia trial, Mandela stood with unshaken pride. He wore a traditional Xhosa leopard skin garment, making a statement: "I am not your prisoner. I am the son of Africa, and I stand here for my people." His words that day became immortal. "I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society. It is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." The courtroom fell silent, but history roared. The judge sentenced him to life imprisonment, and so began 27 long years, almost a lifetime, behind bars on Robben Island, where the ocean sang the sorrows of a broken nation. Prison was not the end. It was a crucible, a place that could have crushed his spirit, but instead refined it. Mandela was forced to do hard labor in a limestone quarry. The white glare of stone damaged his eyes permanently, but it never dimmed his vision. He became a symbol. Fellow prisoners looked to him as their leader. Even his jailers, initially cruel, began to respect the calm dignity with which he carried himself. He never shouted, he never begged. He endured, and in that endurance, he led.